I want to welcome Jon Bey. He is the CEO of Standard Uranium, which is a junior uranium explorer with a market cap of give or take $20 million, very early stage, very interesting. Welcome, Jon Bey.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Glad to be on here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing our story with your audience.
Just starting like big picture at the macro level, I love hearing everyone's perspective on this, but why are you bullish on uranium?
Well, uranium, to me, nuclear energy to me is the future of where clean energy has to come from. I think you've probably heard the story from lots of people in the past that if we really want to have clean energy, no CO2, and you want to have base load power, which means it's going to run 24/7. It's not going to be, when the wind blows or the sun shines, that's not when you're getting power. With nuclear, you get power all the time, and it's safe. It's safe. It's the safest source of energy there is globally right now, and the world needs it, and it's expanding all over the world right now. I mean, we live in North America, so we haven't seen much of a nuclear growth in the past 40 years, but outside of the US and outside of North America, nuclear is really taking off. And over the near future, we're going to start to see more nuclear coming back to North America, primarily in small modular reactors, which we can get into later, but also in regular nuclear builds. And the safety level from where nuclear is now as to where it was, 40, 50 years ago is remarkable. If you think about, a car that was built in the 50s compared to what a Tesla is now, the technology is so phenomenal, and there's no other industry that's regulated as firmly as nuclear. So I believe it's the safest form of energy, the best, cleanest energy, and it's baseload, so we'll always have it. So I'm really bullish on it.
Great. And so that is actually really good to know, because I think we just had a scare in China with a plant with a leak or something. But it makes sense that they would have regulated it at this point. I mean, we haven't had any serious issues. Mm-hmm. So could you talk a little bit to that and why, whether
sure. What we learned yesterday was there was some gases leaking from a nuclear power plant in China. Well, that's exactly how it's designed. It's designed to pick up on those microscopic levels of gases coming out. It lets people know what's going on, and they can easily fix it and move on from there. So it's expected, it's natural, and happens all the time.
Could you dig into the weeds a little bit on how the safety levels have evolved for the uranium and the nuclear reactors? Because that's something I don't think people are aware of.
Sure. So if you go back in time, let's go back in time 30 or 40 years, the technology they were using back then was, it was pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. And you look at certain parts of the world where safety measures weren't as strict as they probably could have been. Well, every time there's been a small, incident or a major incident, like we had at Chernobyl or even Fukushima, the industry learns from it and they improve and they get better and better. So the technology overall, the science and the technology behind it's improved dramatically, and the safety measures are improved. When there's an incident anywhere in the world, the whole world is affected by it. So there's no other industry, I think, where the entire world works together to improve the safety across this industry. So it just continues to improve.
That's great. Yeah. And once people realize that it is safe, I think that's kind of the biggest headwind is the psychology. But once they realize that, which, obviously China already is building many, many reactors, it's here to stay, obviously, uranium. So that's great. So you're bullish that long term. Mm-hmm. Why are you guys, now just kind of focusing on your company, why are you guys so excited about what's going on in the Athabasca region, which is where you're primarily exploring?
Sure. So I'm not sure if your audience is aware, but when you look around the entire globe for where uranium is abundant and where it's economical, the best place in the world is the Athabasca basin in Canada, which is, some people call it the Saudi Arabia of the uranium space. And why they say that is because there's such a huge abundance of it, but it's also the highest grade. So if you think about, uranium mines that are operating in different parts of the world, in Australia or Africa, or different parts of Africa, you get things of, 0.5% to 1%, whereas you can have things in Canada where, you hear stories of, news releases where companies say we just found a discovery hole where it was 40% uranium. That's not the grade of the mine, but that's just an example of what kind of grades there can be in Saskatchewan.
Okay. And then could you talk a little bit about the tract that you guys are currently exploring?
Sure. So we are in the region, the southwest corner of the Athabasca Basin. So if you think of Saskatchewan as a province in Canada, it's right in the middle of Canada, and Saskatchewan's this big, long rectangle. And we're at the very top of that rectangle, the far northern part, and it's like a big oval. And we're in the southwest corner of that oval. So if you look globally, where have the biggest discoveries of uranium been in the past 10 years? The two biggest projects that were discovered globally are Fission Uranium's Triple R project and NextGen Energy's Arrow project. Both of those projects are in the southwest corner of the Athabasca Basin where we are. So people say, so you must be an area play just somewhere close by. And we say, well, no, not really. Because when you look in that area, one thing that's really important to note is that both those discoveries happened on what's called the Patterson Lake Conductor. Now, the Patterson Lake Conductor is a conductor that runs sort of northeast to southwest, and both those projects sit right on that same conductor. And that's great. If you're going to find uranium and you're finding it on a conductor that's already proven, that's really important. And our theory was that same conductor heads to the west and runs right through our Davidson River project. So we spent the last 2 years doing the exploration to prove that theory out, and we have now proven that we believe we're on that same Patterson Lake conductor, and we have now started drill programs last summer, last winter, and now we're drilling again this summer.
What have you seen that's encouraging so far, given the big drill program?
Perfect. So let me take you back in time. So last summer, we did the inaugural drill program. We drilled 5,600 meters, and that was 13 drill holes. We really, when we did the geophysics, that is the science to sort of help us identify these conductors which sit in our project. Now, let me backtrack a little bit further. In this region of the world, if you are going to find uranium, it's going to be sitting in these graphitic or sulfidic conductors. Now, what that means is we use geophysics to look underground to find these deposits, and you can't see uranium on these studies. But what you can see is graphite and sulfite show up. So we use the geophysics to look under the ground, and these deposits are hundreds of meters underground, and we can determine if there's these graphitic conductors. And we've managed to do that. So our first study was called a VTEM study. We did that in 2018, and we identified 26 conductors which run through our project. And then in 2019, we did a ZTEM study, sort of a little bit different of a study, but it shows things a little bit deeper. And we identified, of those 26, 4 major conductors. So those 4 major conductors are our Saint, our Warrior, our Thunderbird, and our Bronco. And we believe that that Patterson Lake conductor I mentioned before comes up and turns into either potentially one of those 4 major conductors. So we started off drilling our Warrior trend. And that Warrior conductor, we did all those 13 holes last summer, and we did another 6 holes this past winter, and we put 1 hole into our Saint conductor this last winter, and now we're starting. So all those holes combined was 20 drill holes over the past year, and then we announced that we were quadrupling the size of our summer drill program to drill another 10,000 meters, 20 plus holes this summer. So we started that on June 1st, and we're really excited to dig into that. And what we're really trying to do here is make a high grade uranium discovery that's basement hosted, and similar to what we found just a few kilometers away at where Triple R and NextGen's Arrow project. So we're trying to identify a project like that on our project. So that's what we're doing right now. Now, to get a little bit more in depth, what are we finding so far? Well, let me tell you a bit about the team we've put together. So when we started this company, it was myself, and I went about hiring people who I thought would be instrumental in making a high-grade discovery like the ones before. So we brought on geologists who had specific experience in that region. Now, where do you find guys who know this stuff? Guys who've made discoveries before working with some of the previous companies. So we brought on Garrett Ainsworth, who was most recently the VP of Exploration for NextGen Energy. Prior to that, he worked with Fission, and he was instrumental in both those 2 discoveries. And then we brought on Neil McCallum, who is an Athabasca Basin geologist specifying in uranium, who's worked in this region for 18 plus years. And then we brought on Sean Hilliker last summer, who just left NextGen after spending 5 years doing his master's degree on the Arrow deposit. And then we brought on a couple other geos from Orano and NextGen and Fission and Denison. So we built our geo team specifically with guys who have specific focus on uranium discoveries in this region. So starting with that. So how does that help us with our drilling right now? Well, every time we put a drill into the ground and we pull out the core, we've got guys now, our geologists, who are looking at that core and comparing it to the rocks that they've seen over at NextGen's Arrow deposit. So if it comes out of the ground, they can tell us, aha, this looks exactly like the piece we saw over here, and it's because of X, Y, and Z. This is really exciting for us. So that sort of gives you an idea of what they're doing and how we're doing it. Now, what are we finding? So we're drilling into these regions. We're finding rocks that are very similar to what they had over at NextGen's Arrow project. We're finding it in the same sort of levels coming down from meter by meter. We're seeing things like different set of clays. We're seeing different alterations. We're seeing structures. We're seeing stacked shear zones. And those are all technical terms that may really, people might not understand what that means. But what we're looking for is you want to see structure. Not only do you want to see those conductors where the sulfides are, when you have a deposit, picture it like this. Picture one of those conductors as a highway, a freeway running along, and the uranium will come up and it'll run along that freeway and keep going, unless there's something that happens to that freeway where it causes a deposit to happen. So what we're looking for is when that freeway gets a cross-cutting structure coming across it and it breaks it apart, or there's a wrenching movement, or perhaps there is changing in direction. All those things have an opportunity for that uranium to all of a sudden stop and drop out and make a big deposit. So those are the things we look for, and we can see that in geophysics, and we use that geophysics to identify all those and put them onto a map, and then we put our drill targets on those. And we've got slides in our corporate presentation, which actually walk you through each one of these steps, and they can show you the maps of where these things all happen and where we're actually drilling right now. So what I can tell you from our previous 2 drill programs, we are seeing those shear zones. We are seeing that same type of structure and alteration. We're seeing fluids. We're seeing small amounts of radioactivity, whether it's thorium or uranium. So it's all giving us clues as to move us towards a big discovery. So that's when you think of ourselves kind of like discoverers or maybe more detectives. So these geologists are taking all this science and all this data and using all these clues to help them hone in to make that next discovery. And that's what we're doing right now. Great. Long answer to a short question.
No, I like the long answer. So you're bullish on it. You're excited by what you're seeing. And obviously you've expanded the program. So what is the time frame you expect to when seriously good results or bad results, any results will come out, starting from now essentially? Yeah.
So when we did our last winter program, we basically drilled all through end of January until early part of March. And that was 7 drill holes. So when you're doing a program that's sort of small like that, you gather all your information and you submit it all to the labs in Saskatoon, where they do the analysis of the data and then send it back to you. That takes about 8 weeks to get your data back. So, and it's also extremely busy period right now. So in the winter, we do that. But in the summertime, because our program started on June 1st, and it's going to run till mid-September, we're going to be sending in these batches of core to the labs about every 4 weeks. So we will have data coming back to us on a regular basis throughout the summer. The labs are still extremely busy. I can't remember a time where it's been this busy, where so many companies are drilling and exploring, not just in uranium, but gold and silver and copper. Every element is being drilled for right now. So the labs are extremely busy.
When would we know if you found uranium or not? Because I understand every week you're going to get results. Oh, maybe it'll point you in the direction of certain things, like more radioactivity. But when do you expect? Or could it happen anytime? I don't know.
So here's how it works. The drillers are out in the field drilling every day and every night. They go 24/7. And every 12 hours, the drillers will return to camp and they'll bring the core by helicopter to our geos. And the geos will take it into the core shack and they'll have scintillometers and they'll be scinting all the core as it comes in. Should we make a discovery, we will halt the stock and we will make a news release immediately. And usually what that means is the scintillometer will pick up off-scale radiation from the core, and that will let us know. We won't know exactly what we have there, but we will know it's really high, and then we'll send that to the lab immediately. Typically, what a company will do is they'll put out a news release saying, we've had off-scale radiation in our core. It's been sent to the lab, and they'll wait for those results to come back. Because then once it goes to the lab, they can tell you exactly what you've got.
Very cool.
But usually get the market really excited when a company does that. So we don't take that lightly. We don't just do that as just to get the market excited. We get in a lot of trouble for that, obviously.
So you guys are going to continue drilling until how much runway do you have?
Yeah, so we'll be drilling from now until mid-September. That'll be 10,000 meters of drilling core. That's going to cost us, roughly between $3.5 to $4.5 million in a budget, depending on how things play out. I mean, when you do a drill program, things can go extremely well or things can go extremely bad, all depending on, the quality of the drillers, the rocks they're getting into. Things happen. So you give yourself a bit of a stretched budget there to work with. Great.
So you guys are already well capitalized in order to, at least for the next year, get through this next drilling?
Well, actually, we started the drill program with about $3 million in the bank, and we probably Probably down to about 2 million right now as we work through, all the expenses that go through it. We anticipate we will be raising capital sometime before the end of the summer to continue with this year's drill program and into the future of next year. As you can imagine, the uranium market is really heating up. My phone and my emails are constantly ringing because investment bankers are looking for ways to invest with us. We have a lot of fund managers, investors who are constantly offering us funds, but we believe the market is going to continue to improve over the next few months. So we're going to wait for the right opportunity to make sure our shareholders have the best possible deal available to our company.
Okay, and regarding the capital raise that you're projecting later in the summer, what would you say to the potential shareholder who doesn't necessarily want to see that dilution?
Well, I think they need to understand that we are an exploration company, and exploration companies explore, and explorer costs money. So when you invest in a company like ours, who's pre-discovery, you need to understand that we're going to be raising money on a regular basis. And what you want to see is companies that actually put money into the ground drilling. And we've been very straightforward with our investors the past few years, doing everything we said we were going to do. And right now we're doing a 10,000 meter drill program. And, one drill hole could make the market cap of this company be 10x overnight. So that's exciting. Every morning at our drill program was like Christmas morning for our geos, waiting for that core to come in. I'm not going to say what the exact amount we're going to raise this summer, but it's enough that will keep us drilling throughout the entire of next year as well. And so watch for that.
So yeah, you want a good ROI on the capital that you raise, right? And if you're saying you're putting all that money into the drill program, and any good news will send the market cap up, like 5x from here, and you only raise, let's say a few million, then that's a good return on investment. So
yeah, we believe so. And those that understand our story, we are pre-discovery. And when you look at, some of our peers who made discoveries in the past 10 years in bear markets, look at those two companies, Fission and NextGen, go back in time and look at their share charts. They were, 10 cent, 20 cent companies. They made their big discovery in a bear market and they were up 25x. And it's remarkable what a company can do, especially in the uranium space with a big discovery.
Absolutely.
Forward-looking statement, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. High risk, but very, very high reward. So thanks for being so transparent about all that.
You're welcome.
So, okay. So then let's say, what is the company's vision? So are you let's say you do find a bunch of uranium. Do you want to become a producer?
I would say probably not. I mean, we are built as an exploration company. We built our entire geological team as exploration guys. So they love the hunt, the finding of that stuff. Should we make a high grade uranium discovery, the next step would be to drill that out for the next few years and see how big that discovery can be. And then once we've got a full size understanding of our resource, and then at that stage, it's decision time. There's a good chance, right beside us, NextGen and Fission are moving forwards with their projects, turning them into mines and building mills. That's going to happen over the next few years. So should the timing be right that our discovery gets found and then we build it out to know what the resource is, we are, remarkable takeout potential, or there could be a whole area play taking the whole thing over. We'll see how that plays out. But either way, it's going to be remarkable for our shareholders.
One thing I did want to ask you about, because we do have a lot of uranium investors come on the show and talk about how, the price has to move up. The spot price just has to move up to incentivize production. As a uranium CEO, do you agree with that the spot price is just unsustainably low right now?
Yeah, it's not going to work where it is right now. Even in the last few weeks, it's moved up to $32 a pound, but that's exceptional though. I think everyone in this entire market understands that the spot price needs to be above 50 and long-term price, between 60 and 70 for these mines to come into production and supply the uranium that's going to be needed for so many nuclear reactors over the next 5, 10, 20, 40 years.
So I guess uranium mines won't be profitable if the price is $30. I mean, most uranium mines.
There are very, very few. And it's, only the top tier, the top tier mines are profitable at, $40 or $50. It's when for the rest of those mines to come into production, which are going to be needed, that needs to be $60 to $70. And we'll start to see when the long-term contracting starts to happen, we're going to see those contracts come in the mid to high 40s to the 50s and 60s, and it's just going to get better and better.
Thank you so much for all that great information about your company and uranium. Is there anything else you wanted investors to know?
Oh, definitely. So one of the things that our company really does to sort of be transparent with our investors is we make a lot of videos from project sites. So I encourage your listeners to go to standarduranium.ca and look at our website, or go to YouTube, punch in Standard Uranium, or go to our Twitter site. I'm tweeting, constantly showing what's going on at site, interviews with our geologists, interviews, video footage of what's happening at sites. If you want to see what goes on at a uranium exploration site, check out our stuff, and then you'll understand why people talk about us and why they love the investor relations we do, and show people inside of what a uranium exploration company does.
We'll look forward to looking into all that. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, you are welcome. And as we progress through the summer, and if things get really exciting, we'll make sure to catch up again and give you some more exciting news.
This discussion is for informational purposes only. Nothing in this discussion should be taken as investment advice. Guests are not compensated for their appearance. Do not base any investment decisions on the information presented.